Hello, welcome to the Platform Special Interest Group meeting. Today we have a first regular sync up about ongoing projects. We will talk about Docker multi-architecture images today, and we will also talk about Java 11 preview availability announcements. So let me share my screen. Okay, do you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, today we have several people on the call. So there is Adrian. He will be presenting demo of Java 11 on Jenkins Evergreen. There is David Curry, Baptiste Matos, Mark Waite, and Olivier Vernin. We asked Oliver to join the meeting because last meeting, when we had a discussion, in each project, we had questions about architecture and specifically about trusted CI. So it would be great to have a discussion how we could make it better. So today's agenda, I want to make some announcements about the platform-sig leadership. So I will be off for the next few months. I mean, I will have a really limited availability due to personal reasons. And I had some discussions with Mark and with Baptiste, and they agreed to be also leaders of Platform Special Interest Group. So Mark and Baptiste, they are long-time Jenkins contributors. I believe you both started contributing much earlier than me. So I do not know how long, for how long you are in the project. And yeah, I believe that it's well deserved. So Mark did a lot of activities around platform support, including various evangelism activities. And Baptiste is an active contributor in Jenkins project, including Docker images and also Java 11 support now. So I think it's well deserved. And thanks a lot, guys, for doing that. Regarding, so I will be sharing all permissions with Baptiste and Mark, and if I'm not available, somebody else will be able to drive the meetings. And speaking of meetings, since we have regular meetings now, I tried to improve the meeting scheduling process a bit. Before that, it was just a mailing list and discussions we were starting between before each meeting. I decided to actually create a Google Doc, which looks like a Jenkins governance meeting document, but in Google Doc. So here we have some dates, and if you want to propose a specific topic for the meeting, you can just propose a change, and then you may see that Mark just does the change right now for January 17th. And for each meeting, you are welcome to just propose agenda. If you want to put something, just propose change there, and we will be monitoring changes in this document. And here are meeting notes for today's document. Just in case you want to join this call, we also have a Gitter chat, and in the Gitter chat, you can find a link, a participant link to the presentation. It's here, platform-sig. Oh yeah, there is a link, and if you have any questions, feel free to join the call. What else have we done about that? I have created a public Google document, public folder where we will also keep all the meeting agendas and meeting notes. Okay, I messed up the link here. Okay, so the actual link is here. I'll fix that. Yeah, just fix it on the call. Okay. Now it should be fine. Yeah, so if you go here, you may see that there is this meeting agenda document. And also all platform-sig meeting notes from the previous meetings. And I hope we will be using this folder just to put all kinds of public documents so that we can keep them in the single place. Unfortunately, the Jenkins project has no G Suite or similar applications, so we cannot store it somewhere on the project account, but at least we can share something in a single place, which is already a good step forward. Okay, regarding other topics, we could proceed with the agenda, or since we have Olivier on the call, maybe we could briefly talk about access to trusted CI. What would be your preference?
So I'd go with the trusted CI topic if there's a hope that Olivier can then excuse himself later if needed.
Yeah, let's do that. So the backstory, we have 3 projects. One is multi-architecture Docker images, then it's Java 11 with also Docker images, and then this is Windows installer with changes to packaging. And surprisingly, all of these 3 projects are related to Jenkins release flows, which are hosted on Trusted CI now. And yeah, last time we modified Docker repository for Java 11 releases. There were some regressions, there were some unexpected behaviors in the publishing process. And our main problem is that we have no access to Trusted CI. We have no way to diagnose what's going on there. And effectively, each change we do is you live only once. Even if you're a maintainer of the Jenkins Docker official image, you have no traceability of what actually happens during the release. And it would be interesting to resolve this issue somehow, or to at least get notifications if something goes wrong. So, Olivier, if you have any ideas of how it could be done, it would be nice to know.
So from the notification part, I was just thinking to do that from a Jenkins file, to just say that when a job is failing, just send an email or just send a short message, for example, in the GitHub channel to just say, oh, by the way, that job is broken. For me, that was the first step. The thing is that I doesn't feel comfortable to share access to trusted.ci because there is a lot of critical information there. So something that we may discuss is, for example, provide access, for example, to SIG leader or something like that. Maybe we can find an agreement on that, like one person can have access to trusted.ci, but more globally, because we never really took the time to really design who has access to trusted.ci. The default behavior is just nobody has access to it. So that's the first things. I don't know how many people should have access to that. I don't know if you have any suggestion there.
I'm not sure we can consider any first access, but there was a ticket to try and at least notify indeed things like, so if we add something like a function in the pipeline library to send IRC messages, we could then use it pretty easily from many critical pipelines, even Evergreen or those like when they're failing, because that's kind of the same issue with Evergreen. I've always regularly issues with the pipeline being broken on trusted CI, but I have no idea until I look for it, basically. So what do you think about first having something on IRC, like a pipeline library, so that it's easy to send messages? And maybe...
I think anyway that's the first iteration to get notified when a job is broken. As you mentioned, it's not only an issue for the platform-sig, it's also something that happened for Evergreen and all the other Docker images. The main concern that I have here is how to share access to all the different people managing, maintaining the different Docker images without not compromising that main Jenkins instance, because the purpose of that instance is really to stay hidden. So, yep.
Yeah, one of the ways would be to actually be able to deploy a local instance for evaluation. For example, for CI Jenkins.io, there are some unofficial projects. For example, I have a demo configuration as code, which allows to develop pipeline libraries. And if we had something like that for trusted CI, maybe with some documentation, it would help us to do at least some local development and minimize the risk of issues. Because now we are just blind when we deploy something. And if we had at least basic instance which can reproduce common steps and common behaviors on the instance, it would be already really helpful to us.
Something that I've been investigating for other SIG is to deploy a bunch of service on Kubernetes. So the idea, for example, to have a custom Docker registry, so we can just publish Docker image on a sandbox Docker registry. So we can use exactly the same scripts and do exactly the same process that we would do on Docker Hub, but just on private services. And this is something that can be quite easily done with Kubernetes. So I don't know if this can be a solution as well.
It could be a solution. Another solution which could be even more simple is actually using another Docker Hub organization for deployment, and maybe using a standard CI Jenkins IO. So in addition to local instances, what we have created before, if you don't mind, I'll just show. We have Jenkins for eval organization. This organization has been created in order to enable Durgadas and other contributors to prototype Jenkins images. So, for example, there is Jenkins for IBM platform. There was also ARM image before. There is repo for Coimo, for Blue Ocean, etc. So this is a separate organization. And one of the things we could possibly do is to just to create credentials for CI Jenkins IO with full disclaimers that it's not secure or whatever, but at least grant people opportunity to push to this particular organization so that they can push experimentally images. And assuming that CI Jenkins IO and Trusted CI are relatively similar, it could be also a way to debug and to prototype something. And we could also deploy pull request builders and other such things, and maybe some continuous delivery flows for untrusted images. Could it be an option from your point of view?
Yeah, I just have another suggestion that I just totally forgot, that we have a private registry on the infrastructure that we give. We have a private Docker registry in Azure. So we could also use that registry if we want to do sandboxing.
Okay. Yeah, if we could do that, it would be really nice.
Yeah, because it's already there. In that case, we don't have to share it. It's not official. It just.
Yeah, but will users be able to access it? Because one of the advantages of Jenkins for eval, it's that you just publish it there, and then it's a standard Docker Hub image. And if you're there enough to use it, you're more than welcome to do that. If you use custom Docker registry, it may be a bit more complicated.
That's true, because you have to put in place, you have to configure your username and password. It's not the default path and that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't think it's too really complicated, but yeah, it's more things to do.
Okay, but yeah, technically, if we wanted to deploy one of these approaches on CI Jenkins IO, how much a difference to instances between each other?
Nothing. Just to so the in the case, so now the only thing that will change is the username and the password used to push the Docker image, and of course the image tag, which change. Not the image tag, the image name.
Yeah, image tag will be a responsibility of repository maintainers. Because it's their responsibility to create Jenkins files properly. Otherwise, they will be just getting failing build due to lack of permissions. And we will ensure that they do not go and grant permissions to these temporary users. But yeah, for Jenkins for eval, it could be, or for private registry, this approach could really simplify the things, because we will be able to set up CI flows, we will be able to set up CD flows for untrusted images, and it doesn't seem to be a major effort if we have capacity on our infrastructure.
Yep.
I think I filed something about kind of that for Evergreen, but that's kind of the same issue in general for trusted CI things. Would it make sense to also kind of introduce some Datadog related monitoring for a thing that's supposed to be successful, on trusted CI side, and so that it kind of, triggering alerts or,
Yeah, so this is something that I've been thinking several weeks ago. So there is two things. The first thing is we have to configure Jenkins with the Datadog API key. So we have an integration between Jenkins and Datadog, and then we can put in place some monitoring checks. The only thing that I will need to do is just to install the Datadog plugin on ci.jenkins.io, and then someone else can just create the monitoring check since those are on public repositories now.
If I recall correctly, Datadog provides a sponsored account to the Jenkins project nowadays, right?
Yes, so we are using Datadog to monitoring on our infrastructure, and we have, so there is a Docker the GitHub repository, which is Jenkins infra/Datadog, where we have all the monitoring configuration. So everybody can write specific monitoring check, as long as we have the data, of course, on the Datadog account. But I mean, it's not a big deal, especially on ci.jungle.
Yeah, that's cool.
So just, if we use Datadog, we don't have to modify the Jenkins file, or we can just go with the Jenkins file and notify a specific RC account.
Okay. Yeah, I think it would be really a good addition for. So yeah, probably if there is no questions, probably we should note action items and move to other topics. Because yeah, there is another topic for Olivier about integrating the dependent patches. So I propose to actually create a ticket, maybe Olivier, if you're fine with Jenkins for evaluation, maybe it's something we could do. And yeah, maybe another ticket for notifications and monitoring.
Yep. I don't know if I already create the one for Datadog. Let me check.
For Datadog, may exist. And another one for ERC notifications, right?
The thing is, we don't have to write. Yep, in Datadog, yep. Sorry.
Yeah, right. And regarding Docker Hub user for these temporary deployments, do you prefer to set it up on your own, or do you want somebody to configure it?
I can configure it.
Yeah, it would be additional level of security so that we do not know credentials.
Yep, I'll do it.
Okay. That's cool. So anything else we're missing here?
No, I think it's fine for me.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, then let's move forward with the agenda. So one of the items we had here is about multi-architecture Docker images. Unfortunately, Docker is not on the call, but yeah, there is a pull request and there were pings about getting integrated in the mailing list. There was ping in mail. There is a mail thread with many questions. I was about this one multi-architecture support from Lee from Linaro, if I recall correctly. So there are some questions, but generally one of the questions is when is it going to be landed? If I understand the status correctly, Olivier, you're fine with this pull request. So we're ready to land it once, Josh is ready to integrate it. Is that right?
Yeah, the only thing is I would like that we coordinate, so I'm around where we need to run that on trusted.ci, so to be sure that if something is broken, we don't leave a broken job during days.
But yeah, if you have Jenkins for a while, we can run it on Jenkins.io.
True. So then in that case, you have to wait that the Jenkins.io is configured.
I see Jenkins for, oh yeah, I messed it up, for Jenkins for a while. Yeah, I'll just make a note so that we do not miss that. Okay, and yeah, then we can just move forward to the next topic. So yeah, you're totally right. If we use this approach, we can just update this pull request, and then we can do many things actually, because we have the same design in Jenkins agents, which are now being released from Docker Hub. And actually, we could start slowly moving them towards the new flow as well. Okay, thanks a lot, Olivier. Actually, it answers questions about Docker packaging. I also have one question to you for Java 11 packaging. So if you could stay online maybe for 5 minutes,
Sure.
It would be nice. Okay, let's go to Java 11 then. So with Java 11, actually what I wanted to discuss with you is announcing preview availability for Java 11. We had a discussion 2 weeks ago about the status readiness, and actually this discussion we reviewed the current status, and there were 3 major blockers. One is for pipeline support, another one for test automation, and the last one for Docker packaging. But currently, all these 3 major blockers are actually addressed. And yesterday, I sent an email to the developer mailing list summarizing the status. It was a bit late for the platform-sig discussion. Sorry about that, but yeah, it summarizes the status. So for Docker packaging, everything is done. Thanks a lot to Baptiste, Olivier, and Carlos. So we have weekly releases with JDK 11 tag. We also have all agent images. We still need to deploy Blue Ocean, but we will stick to experimental repository for now, which is already available. For testing and automation, actually, it's also good. So we have automated builds on Jenkins core. We have acceptance test harness, which is kind of passing. So Oliver Gonza and Lucie, they did a lot of updates around acceptance test harness. And if you open the pull request, actually it has been integrated. So now we can just probably merge, take a look at the master branch. But here, what we achieved there is that now all automated tests actually run for Java 11 and Java 8. They are parallelized. There were some questions about Olivier about the increased workload from acceptance test harness on CI Jenkins.io. So sorry about that, but yeah, what we actually achieved. Okay, some bits of interface are in Russian. But the thing that we have tests running for both Java 8 and Java 11, and there is only few differences between these releases. So after the discussion with Oliver, we are ready to say that acceptance test harness is actually okay for Java 11. So this is one of the new updates. And what else? There were a lot of updates for plugin forms in pipeline libraries. So for example, now if you want, you can run tests on both Java 8 and Java 11. And there is an example of the new configuration. So you can define different configurations, Linux, Windows, which JDK use, which Jenkins use. So here you may see that there are multiple combinations running. And this pull request is also green. So now, as a plugin developer, you can deliver all the plugins. And yeah, last but not least, we also did a lot of manual testing and exploratory testing. So in June, then in September, then in October, we had hackathons. We were doing a lot of testing between them. And we know that the most critical functionality is actually working fine, except some bits of pipeline. I'll talk about that later, but that's good. And now there is a work on running plugin compatibility tester with Java 11. Actually, it was planned for GA availability, but we want to do some work in advance. And thanks a lot to Adrian. He did a lot of patches for PCT and for pipeline libraries so that we can actually deliver this component. So it's also good. And the last blocker, which is not fully resolved, is about pipeline support plugin. So the story behind it that there is a breaking change we need to apply. If you go to this pull request, by the way, am I still screen sharing?
Yes.
Okay, just in case I messed up. Okay, so there is a pull request, and in this pull request, you need to update JBoss marshalling to the new version. And unfortunately, it causes some compatibility issues for runtime context. So if you restart your instance with running Jenkins pipeline, then Jenkins cannot load the instance after that. And technically, we need a better patch in pipeline support. And Sam Van Oort, who is actually on the call, he's working on this patch. But what we
spent most of yesterday digging into issues here that are posing problems.
Okay. So if you want to provide more detailed update, feel free to go for it. Okay, begin.
Most of it is not going to be terribly helpful unless you're deep down in the dark, scary innards of workflow support plugin right now. But it's basically, this is causing some subtle and nasty changes in the way the pipeline program is serialized. Those are not compatible. They also seem to be causing some side effects that are breaking several of our tests, which are indicators we may have other problems at play here.
Yeah, right.
I can give a list of tests, but I don't know how meaningful it will be for the other people on the call.
Yeah, probably will need to revert that so it will be explicit. But yeah, one of the approaches we were discussing is actually to deploy a temporary experimental version so we can unblock preview availability. And this is the approach actually we would like to go forward with the preview availability next week. So while Sam is working on the full patch, we have a pull request here. This pull request is totally not a solution for the issue, but we did a lot of exploratory testing, and actually it seems to be working okay in real life. And what we would like to do is to actually deploy it somehow. And there was a discussion about creating a new experimental update center so that we deploy an experimental update center only for Java 11 updates so that it doesn't impact users of Java 8 even if they use the experimental update center. And we spent some time implementing these patches. So here it's an actual implementation from the plugin developer standpoint. There is a new release of plugin POM, and what this release does, actually it starts injecting a minimum Java version in the plugin metadata. And if you overwrite it, you can say that you want this plugin to be working only on Java 11. So we integrate these patches. Here's an example of what is being injected. Effectively, we just inject the minimum Java version in the manifest entry, and then our update center, Jenkins infra. So there is update center repository, and there is also a pull request against this repository. Actually, it extends work by Daniel Beck. He was working on some Java version provisioning maybe 1 year ago. And yeah, effectively, this entire work, including Maven HPI, patches under the hood is based on Daniel's work. Here we provide a new update center, which will be hosting only Java 11 patches. So it means that we will provide this patch only for users of Java 11. Of course, when this patch is deployed, because we need to also update the generation of Java 8 update center so that it doesn't get Java 11 patches there. But this is our way to address this issue. And actually, I wanted to sync up with Olivier, is how would we deploy that? We had a meeting last week to discuss what needs to be done. And yeah, we addressed changes requested by the Jenkins infrastructure team. So the question would be, what would be the next steps for this deployment?
That's a very good question, and I don't think that I can answer to that right now because I don't know that application enough to. So I prefer to avoid saying things. So I'm fine. I'm fine to help to merge this and to see how it goes. But right now, I can't read.
Usually, this repository is managed by Daniel Beck, and of course, we will try to get his approval. But yeah, after that, are there any specific rituals needed to deploy this experimental update center?
The thing is, yeah, no, I don't have enough context to speak about that. Right? Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So we will just talk to Daniel once we are ready. So yeah, it's under review, and yeah, I think that it should unblock the deployment. And actually, these are the major changes here. There are some other changes unrelated to blockers. So for example, Mark Waite has delivered a fix for Java Web Start. So now we do not offer the Java Web Start button in the web UI when you run with Java 11. Then there is a patches from Adrian and Baptiste for Java 11 support in Jenkins Evergreen. We will have a short demo today. And there was also exploration of Java 11 support in other components like Jenkins FileRunner, but they are out of the scope for JEP 2.1.1. So now it's rather catching additional defects that we haven't covered yet. And yeah, my question about this topic would be is whether you are fine with doing preview availability announcement next week, if you go with this plan. We still know that there will be a lot of regressions, and actually this is one of the reasons why we want to deploy the preview availability and why we want to announce that. So there is some adoption while Java 11 availability is protected by the feature flag. So now you cannot just run Jenkins on Java 11 because you need to set the flag, otherwise it refuses to start. Of course, in Docker, it's a bit more easy, but still. And yeah, we want to make it more public so that people can try it out, report defects. And we are going to have a Java 11 support team, which will be triaging these defects and processing them and sometimes fixing them. So it's pretty much the same process as we used for JEP 200 last winter and spring. And yeah, we will be maintaining Java 11 at least till April 2019. So there will be a pretty good chunk of time where we can fix the most of the reported defects, or at least we can prioritize them and write some documentation how to avoid them, or yeah, whatever. And we will also be creating developer documentation so people know how to verify and fix their plugins if they discover issues. So this is our steps we are going to also take before the preview availability. But generally, we are ready to go. And yeah, I wanted to ask you guys whether you think that it's ready to go or whether we need to do some additional steps before we go forward.
I think it's ready. It doesn't. There are plenty of things still to do, and we'll identify more by going into preview mode. I think we're at the point now where we're stable enough. Let's go preview and learn more as we hear from other users.
Yep. And would you like to deploy that version on the Jenkins Infra project and build some project on it?
It's actually discussable. So if we could create an instance for exploratory testing, it would be nice. But yeah, generally we have Docker packages. So whomever wants, they can just run Docker package. There are some demos like demo Jenkins configuration as code, which have been also updated for Java 11. So I don't think that it's specifically needed to have an instance. What could be cool is to have Evergreen instance running on Java 11, because Evergreen submits telemetry. So it means that if something goes wrong, we may get some information from there. But yeah, I'm not sure how Evergreen is ready to that. So maybe Baptiste and Andre have some insights.
That's kind of a good point. I think we are not very far. So as I've explained in other areas, basically Evergreen is close to, let's say, right now it's kind of a preview too. We say it's not production ready, but I think it wouldn't require a lot of work to actually make it usable and start using it for some kind of subset, because that's kind of the stage we are right now, and that kind of would make sense. Deploy it somewhere and see, by the way, what needs to be fixed in Evergreen itself to be able to run the workload if we misconfigure something that's right now not being worked on enough, so that it's actually working out of the box as per as we want to by definition of Evergreen. And yeah, so it would make sense, and I think it could work. And then we would just iron out the things we discover along the way. So it would both be a small work depending on the Evergreen side, but it would definitely also be interesting from the Java 11 side. So I guess it's kind of a joint effort, interesting joint effort, possibly.
And yeah, what if we have a demo of Java 11 on Jenkins Evergreen?
Oh my God, that transition! You're a superstar. Adrien.
No, it wasn't intended, but it works.
Yeah. Good job. So let me share my screen first. I have a small demo, so I guess that everyone here knows about the current situation of Jenkins. That it's there. We can start Jenkins with on Java 11, but we have some issues.
Maybe we can start. Adrien, sorry to interrupt. Maybe we can start like I should have said that just before, maybe like 30 seconds before, trying to recontextualize maybe Evergreen or something.
Yes, please. Quick summary of Evergreen concepts. Are there channels, etc.?
Yeah.
And then,
so I'm going to kind of do that, because that I'm the one who's, I guess. So Adrien, if you feel like you want to do it, I'm really happy if you want to.
I might not be the best person to do it.
So no problem. So sorry, that's my fault. I should have thought about that before, basically. So Evergreen, I'm going to try to do that in like 1 minute tagline. Evergreen is a new project we started roughly at the beginning of this year, so 2018, which we want to use to kind of propose a way for our end users to use Jenkins in a very easy way. So the tagline is that we want people to be able to actually start building their own projects in less than 5 clicks and 5 minutes. So there are a few different protocol flavors. So one of the first ones we had were the Docker Cloud flavor, which makes it easy to use it on your machine, to try it, and to actually see how it works and everything. There's already another existing one, which is called the AWS EC2 one, which is something that's going to be automatically configured your whole instance, and right away you will be able to build a pipeline using automatically configured and provisioned dynamic and transient instances in EC2 VMs. And so we leveraged that nice flavor feature so that we can actually create a new flavor that's based right now on the Docker Cloud one to see how we could like propose an Evergreen flavor running on Java 11. The nice thing with Evergreen is that we also, because we don't want users to do that, we want them to concentrate on delivering software. We pre-configure the plugins that are installed, the versions. We can push versions, and we can also get automated logs, telemetry. So we get automatically the logs and errors for running the errors that happen. So we worked on that, and Adrien worked on delivering Java 11 flavor of the Docker Cloud one. So that's what Adrien is going to demo right now. Basically, we are leveraging the infrastructure and the feature of Evergreen so that we actually can propose a version of Evergreen that's going to be running on Java 11 without you having to do like anything but running just a single command like you would usually do to run any other Evergreen flavor, basically. I guess that's probably enough.
Yeah, so really the idea is to have always up-to-date Jenkins, and with plugins that are offered by Evergreen. So I have here a Jenkins, a normal Jenkins, the latest LTS running on Java 11, and just to show you that I'm not lying, I'm really using Java 11. And I have a small pipeline job that's just the hello world. And we can see that it's fading because of known issues with Java 11 on the latest release of workflow. But we are on Evergreen. We have we fixed that by the version of plugins offered by Evergreen server. So basically, to start an Evergreen instance, you can run a Docker command that is shown on the website. You have all the details. The only tweak here is to make sure to use the correct label, so the Java 11-docker-cloud, and that will start the instance locally. It will load a bunch of all the plugins that that the Evergreen project recommend. I guess we can present that this way. So you have more. Let's say normally the log you don't look at it, and so you have all the details and of Evergreen, and when it will be started, we will have an instance with the correct set of plugins, hopefully soon enough. Yeah, there we go. Now I shouldn't even have to reload my screen. There we go. And so to get the admin password again, because it's not that. See, I will go again on the website. So everything is shown here. The only thing that is not shown on the project page is the tag to use. So again here, I can show you that I'm again running on Java 11, and if I start a part-time job doing exactly the same thing, so the classic hello world, and normally that should run perfectly on the first try. So just give it some time to start up, but we'll see that the build is actually running and on a Java 11.
While it's starting, you can probably explain that what it would do without our pre-configuration of the right version of the plugin.
Yeah, but basically it's what I've shown at the beginning. You would have that kind of issue, and the build will fail, and so that would you cannot use workflow on a classical Jenkins instance, and because there's an incremental version of workflow that was deployed to enable the support of pipeline running on Java 11, and that is something that the incremental version is consumed by Evergreen. maybe we can insist on what is an incremental version of a plugin.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I would say let's take that for later because I think it's not an evergreen presentation per se.
No.
It's more to focus on the Java 11 side and the nice also side probably for users and contributors to spend like 5 minutes to test Java 11 and see if something fails.
Yeah, exactly. So here in a command line, in a simple Docker run, you have a Java 11 Jenkins, and you can test your classical pipelines to see if we miss something. We'll discover some plugins that we need to be fixed and so on. But basically, it helps you to run Jenkins with a set of plugins that can support Java 11.
Great.
Yeah.
Any question? Anything I should share with you, but I'm not?
Adrian, who is monitoring the telemetry that's coming back from these evergreen instances? Does that go to you and to Baptiste, to others in the evergreen world? Should I be monitoring? It sounds like a great opportunity. We can get more people just using evergreen to do this, and we will automatically collect their experiences.
So it's not coming to me. Baptiste, maybe you can speak a bit more about that.
Yeah, I can explain it quickly, but again, I think it's kind of, well, it's partly you're right, Mark. It's partly in the context, but yeah. So we are leveraging the Sentry software as a service tool. That's a user error logging, I would say, aggregator, and where on which the Jenkins project has a free license. Like for Datadog, the Datadog that we talked about earlier. And so there we can actually monitor. I can show you that quickly. Like again,
Actually, I don't think you need to do the details. I was more worried about the human beings who are thinking about what the messages say.
So here you see the dashboard. So we see what was sent and we see how many events we saw for a given event. Like this one, for instance, and we saw how many users, how many different instances were impacted by this, basically.
So we have so many evergreen instances already?
No, as I was saying, I think